this is a good time to at least give my little pitch before we start.
Yeah.
So first, thank you all for coming. I had a wonderful session with Edith yesterday and just got more excited about today, just in terms of the wealth of knowledge and the wealth of research that she did and that she's going to present. So I hope you're getting more excited as I am. In addition, I want to call your attention to this series that we do. It's called the New Works Wednesdays, and it's almost every Wednesday, although we will be skipping the 20th. But in general, New Works Wednesdays are at noon at Eastern Standard Time. We also have a wealth of programming. We have a program that isn't even posted yet, so you're the first to know. Tu B'Shvat will be online on the 28th of January at noon, but follow us on Facebook, follow us, make sure you're signed up for our emails. Send an email to me if you want to be signed up to our emails, because we have constant programming about all different walks of life of Judaism. So before I introduce our great speaker today, I want to just give you some technical things. Like I mentioned before, although not everybody was here, please be sure if you have questions or comments, put them into the Q&A if you want me to ask at the end, if it's a topical question. If it's more logistic, you can throw it into the chat. And please keep throwing in your places of where you're from in the chat, because it's fun if everybody's watching. And if you do it to all panelists and attendees, then everyone can see it. So I'll just read, like you have Cobena, Madrid, and you have Sagunto, Valencia, and Boston, and Chicago, we said, and Manhattan, and Newark, Delaware. So it's nice to bring together people from around the world for this too. And like I said, I am right now located in Jerusalem. So Q&A for questions, although I do see them in the chat. Chat, open it up to everybody, say hello. And without further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker for today. Edith Scott Saavedra earned her BA and JD degrees from Harvard University. She has had a distinguished career as an international lawyer, business consultant, and nonfiction author. The Lamps of Albarracin, Los Candelabros, I'm not going to say it in Spanish, sorry. If it was in French, I might try, but I'm not trying Spanish. Her first novel has received media attention throughout the Spanish-speaking world, including Radio Sfarad Madrid, Sfarad.es, Sfarad, Libertad Digital, Radio Aragon, Seminario Hebreo, and Radio Las Oiras Bogota. I tried that, but she's going to show you that her Spanish is a lot better than mine. And also, I really look forward to this because it's an unusual way of coming to this, and we'll talk about how you came to this afterwards. But in the meantime, thank you for coming, and thank you for participating. Over to you.
That's great. So let's see. Right now, I see you, Drora. So can everyone see my screen yet, or do I share screen now?
You need to share screen.
Just the way we practiced it. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then they won't see me anymore. They'll just see
And then I'm going to share the screen. Hold on. How's that?
That is perfect. And I am going to take myself off. But if you need me, I'm staying here. Don't worry.
Okay. Drora, everyone, it's a pleasure. The Institute of Jewish Experience has been bringing us to centers of Sephardic heritage around the world. And today we are going to Spain, to a region called Aragon. I'm going to tell you about my beautiful book published in English and Spanish. Now this seems not to be moving, so let's see why it's not moving. I am screen sharing, but it's not moving. It's not moving on your end either, is it?
No. Do you see it? Do you try the down arrow?
Seems to be blocked.
Hmm.
So I can go back out and try again. Should I escape it and try again?
That's strange. Yeah.
It's not doing that either. Mute participants, stop share. I want to, should I stop share and try the share
Yes,
again?
stop share. Exactly.
Okay. And share screen. And
thank you all for bearing with us. And
yeah, thank you guys. I don't know why this one is, but we're there. I'm going to go back into this. I'm going to try it this way. And then I'm going to go to slideshow from the beginning. Resume slideshow. And now let's see if it will move. Now it is okay.
Beautiful.
So,
okay.
Great. All right. We're going to go now. And I'm going to tell you about my beautiful novel published in English and Spanish by Floricanto Press, The Lamps of Albarracín, in Spanish, Los Candiles de Albarracín. My novel is a window into our Spanish past, our culture as it was lived and experienced in Spain more than 500 years ago. It is so precious and important, and my educational film will be shown after this today, so you can stay on and watch. My focus, the vibrant culture of Sephardic Aragon, interfaith friendships between Catholics, Jews, and Muslims, and a true story of resistance to the Spanish Inquisition. My novel takes place during the decade of the 1480s, the last 10 years of the Jewish presence in Spain before the expulsion of the Jews in 1492. This was the early Renaissance. The Renaissance was amazing. Fine arts, music, Ladino poetry, ballads, fashion. If you wonder what it would be like to go back in time, to wake up and find yourself at home with the hameen simmering on the hearth, oil lamps lit, evening prayers, sisters planning to attend a wedding, my story brings you there. So pour yourself a glass of wine and enjoy. I'll start with the portrait. I designed this for the novel, and I call her my Sephardic Mona Lisa. This is Sarah, the narrator of the story. Sarah is dressed exactly as they did in the 1480s, and I'm going to tell you about the gown later. And Sarah is holding a special green lamp, and I'm going to tell you about that too. Sarah and her family live in the town of Albarracin before the arrival of the Spanish Inquisition. This is where the story opens. Okay, I'm going to get my cursor. When you think of the Jews of Spain, you probably think of the glorious culture of Cordoba or the scholarship of Toledo. In fact, Aragon, which is over here, was one of Spain's leading Jewish centers. This isn't widely known today. This is not because the Jews and Judeo-conversos were not important to Aragon. They were important to Aragon and the Mediterranean. So why don't we know more about them? Because they were the most resistant. The most resistant to the Spanish Inquisition, so the Catholic monarchs and church suppressed them and their history, which is a big reason why I wrote my novel. Why were they so resistant? Aragon was a multicultural society, as you're going to see from the slides today. People of different faiths lived and earned a living together. And Aragon today has a small population and a small economy. It wasn't always this way. In the 1480s, as you see on the map, Aragon was one of the most powerful kingdoms in the Mediterranean. And through a dynastic alliance, controlled territories, including Sicily and Naples. Aragon also controlled a big share of the maritime trade and wealth. And it was the Jews of Aragon who had been put in charge of the royal treasury 200 years before, who had made this happen. So my book is a historical novel, true to the facts. All the historical events in the story really happened at the time and place indicated. This is Albarracin. I like this view because this is what you see when you're on a footpath hiking over the hills and you come up upon this beautiful view. And here's some architecture. You see the church. Today there is no mosque, neither mosque nor synagogue. But in the 1480s, when my story set, Catholic Jews and Muslims lived together and interacted in this region to an extent hard to find anywhere else in Western Europe. This was such an exciting place and time for Sephardic culture. Let's start with faith, inquiry, and learning, the world of the children, Sarah, her brother and sisters, growing up. What an amazing knocker on the front door. So at Sarah's house, the tutor comes to teach the children, in particular the brother Isaac. In today's parlance, Isaac would be seen to be on the autism spectrum. Sarah stays with him during lessons, and their little sister, Reina, likes to sneak in and join too. What exciting learning. Their Torah studies. Let's have a look. This is the book of Genesis from the Hebrew Bible of Tarazona in Aragon, created at the time of the story. Let's look at some of these. Is anything more beautiful than that? As Dora pointed out, the use of gold is really spectacular. I love this one. So let's put the places on the map. Get my cursor, here we are. Albarracin, you can look at the box. Albarracin is here. You're going to be hearing about the city of Teruel, which is next to it. Down below in the detail box, you can see that enlarged. So if we go from Albarracin, where the cursor is, and we go due north, this cursor is hopping around. Here we go. Tarazona is where those folios that we just saw were created. And Tarazona was also famous for its synagogue, which had a Torah with magnificent silver ornaments. And in my story, the little sister Reina really longs to see those silver ornaments in that Torah scroll. So if we go right across the border into Navarre, there is a little town called Tudela. And Tudela is where Benjamin de Tudela was from, the great Jewish adventurer and writer who traveled the Mediterranean. So the children were familiar with Tudela, and they learned about him too. And of course, they learned about the great philosopher Maimonides from the south of Spain, Cordoba. If we come here to the capital of Aragon, Saragossa, they also learned about a great philosopher from there, Rabbi Hastai Crescas, who was the author of Or Adonai, and who influenced modern philosophy through his impact on Spinoza. The great synagogue of Saragossa in the 14th century had one of the largest congregations in all Europe, with an estimate between 2,000 and 3,000 members. Today, the main building does not survive. In my book, you'll find an accurate description of this inspiring interior. From Saragossa, we can come to Ijar. Ijar is right here. In my story, it's Sarah's father's hometown, and a town of, in fact, 1,500 people at the time. And this town of 1,500 people had its own Talmudic school. Sarah worships at the lovely synagogue. The existence of the synagogue was proven only a few years ago, thanks to the efforts of Professor Miguel Ángel Motis of the Universidad de San Jorge and his colleagues. The building was built in the high Gothic style of Central Europe, most likely by a builder named Muhammad Rami, who also did commissions for Pope Benedict XIII. This long-lost synagogue has recently been rediscovered beneath the plaster of a church. Hidden behind the altar is the Aron HaKodesh. And we see what's emerging on the walls, a newly uncovered fresco, photo courtesy of Dr. Lucia Conte Aguilar, who's with us. That's a menorah. And also a fragment from the Aleph Bet in one of these styles of Hebrew script popular in Aragon at the time. So this discovery alone places Ichat on the world map of Jewish heritage. Now, in the same town at the same time, there's something brand new called a printing press. Wow. Run by the physician Eliezer ben Alantansi. Ben Alantansi was the first native-born Spaniard to start a printing press in Aragon, and they print the Tur Ora Hayim by Jacob ben Asher and several other works. And courtesy of Professor Miguel Ángel Pallares of the Universidad de Zaragoza, here is something very special. Wow, isn't that amazing to think of it as something brand new? And here we see something also brand new. We see the stamp of the editor. His name was Solomon ben Maimon Salmati, and he had his own emblem, right? The lion, and that was just totally, cutting edge technology at the time. And so this was making this, which was also at the same time from the same place, obsolete. Look at the change. We're coming into the modern era. So Sephardic Aragon was a serious center of learning and innovation, and now we're going to do some culture with a small c. I love it. Here are some of the delights you'll find in the novel. Okay. Rosh Hashanah, Sarah eats local peaches grown in those very orchards still today, and they are gold and aromatic. Sukkot, after sunset, the children go from booth to booth sampling crystallized sugars. Just look at this array of flavors here. At Hanukkah, wine from their own vineyards, and those included, for example, a luminous rosé, still made there, a rosé with strawberry tones. And at Purim, the children were served frothy beverages of ground hazelnuts and pine nuts and cinnamon, whipped to a foam. Marzipan. At Passover and weddings, marzipan known as masapan, and here it is beautifully presented by the artist and culinary writer Stella Hannon-Cohen in her book, Stella's Sephardic Table, which I highly recommend. Orange sponge cake, pan de España. Sponge cake was invented in that part of Spain in the Middle Ages. And this cake has continued to delight generations, especially in the Sephardic cuisine of Rhodes. And here we see the presentation again by Stella Hannon-Cohen. And in my story, Sarah dreams of this cake. Hamin, Sarah follows recipes from those very villages, thanks to research by my late mentor, Dr. David Gitlitz. We know exactly what families put in their hamin: chickpeas, cabbage, and cumin, seed with, if they could afford it, beef and sugar. Essential oils. A motif in the story is the essence of myrtle. Myrtle had its medicinal use and also, of course, symbolic spiritual meanings, and lots of herbal potions and cures. Here are apothecary jars from that time from Valencia. And here we have it illustrated by the illustrator of my book, Debbie Wachowski of Madrid. And look at what we have here, we've got 2 apothecary jars, and we have the flowers of myrtle. So I'm going to read you a real list of ingredients, and you can guess what it was used for. As handed down by Rabbi Yehuda Harizi of blessed memory, a blend of cinnamon bark, citron, galangal, tamarisk, and also a costly sachet of mandrake granules. Guessed? This mixture was used by women to help them conceive. And how they used it was really surprising. You'll have to read to find out. Herbal remedies were prescribed by Jewish physicians in Aragon for many aspects of intimacy. Now, let's take a look at some fashion. Okay, I based Sarah's gown on this painting and ordered hand-woven silk from the mountains of Thailand from a women's cooperative made with all natural dyes to try to recreate the natural colors and the sheen of the Renaissance silks. And that's why the greens and reds that you see in Sarah's dress are so luscious. And a high couture seamstress in the Republic of Singapore, they're known for their tailoring, copied this dress from this painting. So here is a fitting in Singapore. And here we can see it modeled. Here's the portrait. Another painting from the Museum of Huesca in Aragon. This was painted in Aragon at the time of my story, and I included the artist, this beautiful young woman, and her outfit in the story. So much of the story was inspired directly by works of art, including character scenes and landscapes. Interfaith friendship is central to the story. One of the favorite characters is Uncle Arabi the trader. Arabi, a Muslim, keeps a trading emporium in the market square of Albarracin. Now, his shop could have had tiles like this from Valencia at the time. Uncle Arabi is an old trading partner of Uncle Saul, Sarah's uncle. He's known their family for a long time, and he teaches the brother Isaac how to play chess in his store. Uncle Arabi offers refreshments on a platter like this, also from Valencia at the time. In winter, Arabi offered steaming drinks made with syrups. The choices included honey, mint, citrus, rose, sandalwood, or Reina's first choice, the syrup of good cheer. The cups of syrup in steaming water were fragrant and sweet, and none of us could resist. Arabi teaches the children about the tree of life in Islam, with references to the silk Persian carpets in his store, quotes from the Sufi poets, and the Ayat al-Nur verse of the Quran. They discuss spirituality. The little sister Reina imagines a tree of life in the paradise of 3 religions. According to Proverb 20:27, the soul of man is the lamp of God. This is one central theme, and you'll read about the beautiful and unusual oil lamps within the story. For the Jewish families of Spain, lamps symbolized the spiritual and the sacred and were an integral part of worship, also important symbols in Islam and Christianity, and of course, useful objects in the household. So I have lamps in my novel for characters of the different faiths, and most of the main characters have their own lamps. Each one's lamp sheds light on their inner self. And the lamps you see here are lamps in the Spanish Sephardic tradition, as is the green oil lamp that Sarah holds in her portrait. And this is the creation of one of Israel's leading Sarabists, Inbal Oren of Tel Aviv. It has two traditional sacred motifs, the menorah and the sacred olive. I searched the world for the perfect lamp, and I found this on Etsy. I sensed it was right for my story. Afterwards, I learned that Ms. Oren's ancestors had left Spain during the expulsion of the Jews in 1492. So here we see the green lamp in the portrait. The lamps in my story are based on actual lamps in my collection, including replicas of ancient lamps from the Emirate of Cordoba and lamps in the traditional style of Teruel. In the book, each lamp is illustrated by Devi Wachowski. I can see an example here. Now, I presented my educational film to an advanced placement Spanish literature and culture class in Framingham, Massachusetts. The children asked, was there one thing that inspired you more than anything else to write the book? What a great question. And the answer is yes, a set of festival lamps for Hanukkah. It was discovered not too long ago when the city of Teruel was excavating its main square for the parking lot, I think. And underneath, they uncovered the old Jewish quarter, or Juderia, and they found this set of lamps. It is a Hanukkah from the 14th century. It really intrigued me that a set of lamps created to give light and inspiration could survive in the dark so many centuries. In the novel, I bring it alive for Hanukkah. And here's the illustration by Devi Wachowski. In real life, I commissioned the artists on my book team, Devi Wachowski and Inbal Oren, to recreate the Hanukkah of Teruel, to create a replica and interpretations. So in a very special event in 2019 at Beit Sasson Sephardic Congregation of Newton, Massachusetts, we lit these lamps in replica for the first time since the Spanish Inquisition in the synagogue on the first day of Hanukkah. So far, we've been sampling the Sephardic culture and experience in Aragon. In my novel, we get to the Spanish Inquisition, but not in the first half, not until halfway. This is intentional. The entire first half of mine is devoted to recreating and experiencing the wonders of Sephardic Aragon. Sephardic culture was under siege from the Catholic monarchs and the Catholic Church. This was when Ferdinand and Isabella were pushing the last Muslims out of southern Spain in their quest to achieve a unified Catholic kingdom. In 1484, King Ferdinand sends the Inquisition into Aragon, and returning to the city of Teruel, which is here. The Inquisitor rides up to the city gates, shows the king's own seal, and they refuse to let him through. The city defends all its residents as one people, regardless of faith, behind one city wall. The city sends a letter to King Ferdinand, telling the king that His Majesty was wrong to send the Inquisition because the judgment of souls is reserved for God at the end of time. This is something that really happened. In my novel, we see it through the eyes of Sarah and her young friends. My educational film tells the same story, and that will be shown afterwards. What a vibrant culture. And it was about to be fragmented and dispersed around the world. In 1492, the Jews of Aragon were expelled by the decree of the Catholic monarchs. What is the message of my book? In the words of Sarah, I was 14 when King Ferdinand sent the royal monarch's Inquisition into Aragon. For the next 5 years, to outward appearances, I lived in sequence as a Jew, a Catholic, and a Muslim. Was I a different person each time? No, I was always Sarah. No matter who I appeared to others, though my life was at risk, I learned not to judge my companions by their faith, because the worst and best of us is the same. Most importantly, the best. From the Kingdom of Aragon in the 15th century, a Jewish girl sends us a message of light, a message of interfaith friendship, a message very important to our world today. I hope that you all enjoy my novel, The Lamps of Albarracín. Thank you.
Thank you. Very informative, definitely. And just, yeah, it's definitely worth a read, obviously. Otherwise, I wouldn't have invited her. I hope that you all understand. But I think the introduction was great, and you'll see the film after, as you mentioned. Please do, if you have questions, put them into the chat or Q&A at this point, because I'm monitoring both. You have 2 comments I'm going to just throw out there at you. Did you just mention David Gitlitz, whom we just lost last week? Blessings on his gentle soul. What an honor to know him. I thought that was worth reading out again, as you had also expressed your condolences. And then the question, what was the size of the population? I think you mentioned it also, and how many remained in Albarracin, I'm assuming, is what the question.
Albarracín at the time, now Professor Angel Motis is here from the Universidad de San Jorge. He is the expert. He wrote a 500-page book on the Jews of Albarracín.
What's his first name?
Miguel Angel.
Okay.
I think he's here. I think there were 30 families, Miguel Angel, 30 families who left in 1492. I don't know how many people would be in a family, or maybe we're talking about 150 people.
You can open your camera and your microphone. Sorry, Professor, if that's okay. And if you stop sharing, Edith, then we can see the people also.
Okay, I'm going to stop share.
Okay, so we'll do a little bit of talking first. Everybody can. I'm going to move people as you answer questions. So, did you want him to?
I guess that's it. Unless I need a correction, there would be about 30 families who left in 1492.
Okay. Yes.
Yes.
I'm agree with you. Hello.
Hi.
Hello, Edith. Congratulations for your excellent presentation. I agree with you. In Jewish community in Albarracín in the Middle Ages, there were about 30, 40 families of Jewish families, of course. About the 10% of the whole population, including Muslims and Christians.
And then the question is, where did they go? The ones who left.
They, yes, the 50% of the Jewish population were converted into Christianity, and the rest go to Naples and Tunis, Morocco and Naples, basically.
Okay, we have another, actually a statement from Monique. I believe marzipan was invented in Toledo, which was nearby your story. So, I don't know if you know that. I don't know.
I know that even today, the marzipan of Toledo is very famous.
Okay. You can, like I said, you can almost all at this point open your cameras and open your microphones and feel free to ask questions. Otherwise, I'm going to ask a few questions if that's okay. And the first question is just very basic, although I'm sure it's not so basic. Why did you write this? Why did you feel a need to write this? And then why did you feel a need to promote it with a film, or to complement it with a film, rather?
Yeah, I didn't know that I had Sephardic heritage when I was growing up. And my mother was from Central America, from a very remote town. When she was a little girl in the 1920s, it was several days by sailing ship from Panama City. And the family had been there, and it's documented, absolutely documented, been there since 1671. But she never told me about her childhood. And I attended Harvard University as an undergrad. I remember coming home from vacation, and my cousin was with my mom, and we were discussing the family's history. And suddenly she said, in Spain, we were members of the royal court. Our houses were made of cedar wood and hung with Flemish tapestries. You know, they're from a village in the center of Panama, right? So she turned to me and there were tears in her eyes, tears. And I looked at her face. I mean, I loved her very much. I thought, oh, wow, she's sad because she's lost people. Maybe what she wants to do is, you know, find her Spanish family. That should be easy. I'll go back to Widener Library in Harvard Yard and I'll just look up in these encyclopedias, right? It's 1970s. So I did, and guess what? We weren't there. So it wasn't until around 15 years ago when Harry Stein came out with this incredible resource online, you know, the internet, you know, Sephardic last names. And then one night I found all of our last names there, and then it was my time to cry. Because I realized we'd all been, you know, we'd all been Jewish in Spain, and we'd all had to come across to this place. And I was thinking, what really would matter to me was to be to understand the experience. I wanted to understand the experience of being Jewish in Spain and living through an attempt at conversion. Because if I could understand the feelings, the experience, the identity, right? What I had to give up, what rights of mine were abrogated, you know, then I could make sense of my Jewish heritage for myself. And if I wrote this in a novel, I could open it up for everybody. And I realized that I'd have to do it in the first person and be that girl. And that's where we've got, you know, a story of Sephardic Spain narrated in the first person by a teenage girl. Yeah.
Oh, it's definitely
different, but true.
No, I know, it moves me. I'm sorry. That was needed a minute. I see some people have their microphones open. Is that because you want to ask a question, or?
Oh, you asked about the film. So yeah, the educational film was an educational film, an initiative from this spring. And I felt that with everything going online, there's just a real need for great content, especially to teach about the Sephardic heritage of Aragon in the schools there, because the curriculum has finally been opened up to introduce the history of the Jews into the curriculum in Aragon schools. And I thought, wow, you know, this is something I can do. This is somewhere I can contribute. Maybe I can create, you know, in visuals, like in a short film, you know, how exciting this time and place was. And so that's what I've done with a great team, including David Murolo, who's here from Athens, who was the producer, and Montse Fernandez, who helped me with the audio, and Javier Bonalopez, who's also here from Calatayud, has just been, you know, my right hand throughout this entire experience. So
you mentioned your.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. No, they're available on links, but it's available in English and Spanish.
So you mentioned that your family name and you were trying to research it. The question here is, and it's too bad Jeannie's not here. How can we do research on the family names of those who went to Naples? I don't know if you know.
Wow.
Right.
Yes.
Jeannie was here, but.
Yes, I do. Because
okay.
Luca Ascoli is an incredible scholar on the subject of the Jews of Italy. I attended one of his internationally broadcast Zoom conferences not too long ago on the history of the Jews of Italy. And I understand that there has been a lot of genetics and cultural research on the Jews of Sicily and Naples. It may be Sicily right now, where they have a team led by the great, you know, renowned geneticist Adam Brown, going from town to town, doing interviews and taking where they can get them the wide DNA samples, and it's really, really interesting.
Do you have any connections to the modern Jewish community in Spain?
The modern Jewish community in Spain, yes, I have connections which I cherish and I've built through my book project. I have not been able to travel recently because of health concerns, obviously. I'm just dying to go and meet everybody in person.
And then you wanted to mention something about your creative writing contest.
Yeah, this is an idea that we're just working on now. It was a great idea contributed by Maria Jesus Gaspar Marin, who may be online now. And so what we did was Javier and I sent out an offer emails to all of the teachers of history in Aragon state secondary schools and institutes, offering my films for free. And we got a lot of really interesting people writing back. And Maria Jesus wrote back saying, what about a literary contest? Because, you know, creative writing contests are really big in Spain. Spain's got a wonderful heritage and tradition of creative writing contests. So I think it's a great idea, and it's something we're just thinking about putting together now. So it would be the the creative writing contest for young people, Los Candiles de Albarracín and the Sephardic of Aragon. And we're thinking of the age groups, maybe 16 to 18 and 18 and above. And we're looking for a sponsoring institute in Teruel, and we think we may have one. So we're very excited about this.
Let me just, I see that Elizabeth looked up the Jews of Italy. So actually I could just say, instead of typing it to you, if you want to share the link that you found with it to all the attendees, because you said you had found it online, so I'll let you, and then we're going to ask one more question so that we make sure to have time also for the video.
Okay.
Although it seems like people really have a lot. Can you comment on the Jews who left Spain for Portugal? And was Jewish freedom in Portugal short-lived? Oh, actually, there are two more questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. I really recommend that people watch the wonderful film, The Children of the Inquisition. It's one of the best expositions I've seen on what the Jews of Portugal and of the Spaniards who went to Portugal had to live through. It was absolutely appalling as far as I'm concerned. And they were only there, the Spaniards who were able to go into Portugal were only there for a few years. And they were told that ships were brought into the harbor for them to have passage out of Portugal. And what they didn't know was that the Catholic Church was there en masse with bishops and, and priests and who knows what, doing forcible conversions before they could get on the boats. I wasn't aware of the story. I really suggest that people watch the film.
And how do you feel Spain is representing Jewish history now? And if it's too political, you can say it is.
I can't speak for the government and the official policies. I would say that through my experience, my lived experience for the last 10 years, there are individuals across all walks of life in Spain who care passionately about multicultural Spain and Sephardic Spain. And that's what gives me the most joy, really. And I keep meeting them and seeing their dedication. It's wonderful.
Okay. And so with that, because that was a positive note, I'm going to open up the film right now. So you're in for a treat there too. It somewhat recaps and somewhat builds on what we've been talking about. So I encourage everybody to stay for that. And then at the end, hopefully we'll stay a few more minutes just to close it out. So give me a moment just to.
And also, I have a version that I narrated in Spanish. So today is in English, but if anybody wants it in Spanish, just let us know, and I can send a private link later.
Okay. Just do a thumbs up if you hear it, please.
Is a historical novel. The story of a Sephardic girl, Sarah, who comes of age when the Spanish Inquisition enters her town in the Kingdom of Aragon. Albarracín is where Sarah lives, and also her friends, Jewish, Christian, and Muslim. Her father is the town's doctor. She's learning to be a midwife. She's also in charge of her brother, who has autism, and a younger sister. And when she's 14 years old, something called the Inquisition arrives. The Holy Brotherhood takes her to the city of Saragossa, to the Dominican convent of St. Agnes. The Mother Superior tries to turn her into a devout Christian in ways that hurt her body and soul. Sarah resists. She escapes from the Dominicans and flees from Aragon with the help of Muslim friends. Sarah, who's Jewish, dresses as a Muslim to escape with them. Fatima, Sarah's friend, rides along on her mule with a black kitten in her saddlebag, the way they actually traveled with pets in those days. And the kitten naturally has its mind on escaping too. On the road, they bring along their oil lamps. Fatima has a pair of oil lamps in the style of the Caliphate of Cordoba. When lit, they resemble magical slippers with lights on their toes. Sarah's lamp is in the Sephardic style with the design of the menorah and the sacred olive. We'll see these lamps used in daily life and worship. Now, we're going across the mountains with Sarah and her friends to images by Manuel Martinez Forega and the Albarrana Association of Calatayud with Sephardic songs by Cantigas de Sefarad. Our trip begins in the Sierra of Albarracin in southeast Aragon. It's a land of mountains, caves, legends, traditions, legends of witches, ancient traditions surrounding sunrise in the month of May and the solstice, and also danger. Because in the 15th century, this was definitely bandit territory. Sarah travels with her friend Fatima and members of Fatima's family, protected by a band of muleteers. Her companions are Muslim from Albarracin, en route to the coast of Valencia, bound for Tunisia. They know that Sarah's Jewish. They've known her family for a long time, and they give her shelter, passage, protection as she flees from the Dominicans. Sarah tries to pretend that she's Fatima's younger sister, staying with them in the homes of Muslim families, learning Muslim customs, but also all the while struggling to stay true to her own Jewish identity and secret. The teenage girls soon realize they've got more in common with each other than Fatima has with her old-fashioned aunt, and Sarah has a first brush with romance with a young Dominican of Muslim ancestry named Vincent. On a bright autumn day by the banks of a river, Vincent secretly offers Sarah pastries made the Sephardic way. When he approaches, Sarah says, "Brother Vincent, you forget who we are." My question is, who are they? How do they define who they are, why, and at what cost to themselves? My novel explores issues of identity, diversity, and interfaith relations. Also, justice, injustice, and resistance. For Sarah, with the arrival of the Inquisition, these quickly became matters of faith, life, and death. After many adventures and pursued by the Holy Brotherhood, Sarah and her friends arrive at the great delta of Valencia to set sail. And Sarah sees the shining waters of the inland sea, the Albufera. In the water, I saw reflected a young woman in Muslim attire, standing alone, as slender and straight as a stalk of wheat, whose eyes might reflect the faith of any of our three religions. My reflection said to me, Aragon is my homeland. I am as Aragonese as anyone, yet I have to leave to keep my faith. I'm not the first. How many will follow? The Kingdom of Aragon was a major power in Europe in the 1480s. The Sephardic conversos managed a large part of the Aragonese sea trade. The conversos were of Jewish lineage and had converted, at least outwardly, from Judaism to Christianity. The Jews first arrived in Iberia in ancient times. Historians don't actually agree when they first arrived, perhaps with the Phoenicians, but they do agree that the Romans brought thousands of Jewish people to what is now Spain as slaves. In the Middle Ages, the Jews of Albarracin were essential actors in the economy, in the textile, leather, and footwear sectors, in commerce, with stores and warehouses. They gave the short-term credit to town residents of all faiths that allowed people to earn their living. Also, medical services. And across the entire kingdom, for example, the Al-Constantini family from Calatayud. In the 14th century, the main synagogue of Saragossa had one of the largest congregations in all Europe. Today, nothing remains of its main building, but I assure you that it was beautiful. In my novel, you'll find a historically accurate description of its interior. In these images is a detail from the book of Genesis in Hebrew, from Aragon. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. I commissioned a map, especially for my readers. The map of the Lamps of Albarracin. All the places shown on this map are part of my novel. In the late 15th century, many areas of Aragon were home to people of diverse heritage: Christians, Muslims, Jews, and people of mixed heritage and faith. Let's see some images of this multicultural heritage of medieval Aragon. From the churches of the historic towns of the county of Calatayud. Much of Sarah's story takes place in the city of Calatayud, where her older sister and husband live in a small palace facing a square called the Plaza de la Jolea, which really was where the most distinguished Sephardic converso families, such as the Asaria family, had their homes. Sarah's sister is a social climber. She gives Sarah a very stylish silk gown of red and green, but Sarah's just not won over by her sister's wealth. From the Museum of Huesca, we'll see two paintings. The lovely young woman you'll see in the second one, who's shown standing among the Pharisees, actually appears in my novel as Sarah's older sister. From the capital city, Saragossa, from the Aljaferia Palace, from the Mosque of Tortoles in the county of Tarazona, the synagogue of Ijar, the county of Teruel. You probably recognize these two, the Catholic kings. They established their own Inquisition to eradicate among their Christian subjects activities and beliefs that were not accepted by the Catholic Church. If a person baptized in the Catholic faith did not accept Jesus Christ as their personal Messiah, their soul would be condemned in the afterlife forever. And this was their justification for condemning so-called heretics to death. The Inquisitor, Pedro de Arbues, arrives in Saragossa. He enters the Cathedral of La Salle. He kneels in prayer, and from the shadows of the chapel, knives stab him from behind. Pedro de Arbues, the protege of Torquemada, is dead. Who's blamed? A group of leading Sephardic conversos, including the king's own magistrate, Jaime de Montesa. In memory of his daughter, Leonor, who also died at the stake, I requested a drawing for my book of the sacred olive. A city that stands out for its diversity, unity, and resistance is the city of Teruel. A different inquisitor was sent to Teruel. He had a surprise waiting for him because the leading families of Teruel knew he was coming. When the Inquisitor Saavedra arrived with his party of executioners. At the gates of Teruel, the town council refused him entry. Teruel saw itself as a united city and rose up to defend all its residents, regardless of their faith. The city sent a letter to King Ferdinand explaining that His Majesty was wrong to send the Inquisition because the judgment of souls is reserved for God, the end of time. The Catholic kings reacted with a scorched earth response. All these events we see through the eyes of Sarah, her brother and sisters, and their young friends. Today, Aragon's not known in Spain as a principal center of Judaic culture, but that's not because the Jews and the conversos were not important in Aragon, but instead because they were the most resistant. What is the message of my book? Though my life was at risk, I learned not to judge people by their faith because the worst and the best in all of us is the same, especially the best. From the Kingdom of Aragon, in the 15th century, a Jewish girl sends us a message of light, a message of interfaith friendship, a message that is very important in our world today. I hope you all will enjoy the Lamps of Albarracín.
Thank you so much for that. I saw a few people clapping, although I couldn't see everybody. I do see that, yes, that was splendid, fabulous. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias. Excelente presentación, Edith. Congratulations, Edith, for your wonderful presentation. I didn't know what it was blowing up with. I thought it might have been some questions. Oops. Sorry. Okay. Well, I definitely enjoyed this. I hope that it seems like everybody else did as well. If you'd like to say thank you or your appreciation to Edith, I do want to share one more thing. Just again, we have to do some promotion too. So, but I think hopefully our programs are worth promoting. And so I would like to share with you what's coming up next. And I'm not going to switch the mode right now, but you can see that we have for the next few weeks, except like I said, not January 20th, but we did take January to kind of give lighter books. So we start with a historical fiction, and then we go to a memoir, and then to an autofiction. So really, this is different time periods, different places. Our next one is about Iran. The one after that is about, well, Jews that were originally from Yemen, but now between Canada and Israel. And then we actually have our scholarly works back in February, and we hope to see you all there. So thank you all for coming. Feel free to talk amongst yourselves for a few minutes, but thank you again, Edith. This was really, really wonderful. And I hope everybody goes out and at least purchases one book for themselves and one for a gift.
Thanks, everybody. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Well, I think somebody's speaking. But she was on mute. Betty, are you speaking?
I was.
Oh.
I sent Edith a note directly asking how you selected the musical pieces. I think of Minuş Minuş as a Turkish song, and I was curious how you included it.
Okay, Betty, the songs are performed and recorded by a group in Spain, Cantigas de Sepharad, based in
Yes.
Zaragoza,
Yes.
and they themselves created their repertoire, and I just thought that the song was amazing. It just spoke to me, so I included that from their album.
Okay, thank you. I know them. They're very good.
You do, yeah, they're wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, have a good day, evening, morning, wherever you are in the world, and hope to see you at future events. Thank you again.
Thank
And my
you.
video will be
Bye.
put on Vimeo, private. I'll put a public link on Vimeo if anyone wants to find it. Okay, bye-bye, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Do you want me to share it with everybody email? I can do
Yeah,
that.
I think everybody who came should get the private link. That would be perfect.
I
Okay,
will do that. Okay.
have a great day.
Bye.
Good evening, everybody.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.